Sometimes God will use the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, to confuse them, right? And I've noticed that people always try to place you in a box. They always try to limit you based on their own limitations, based on what they believe they are not capable of doing, right? So they will try to project that onto you. And when I tell you, if you allow God to use your pain, to use your situation, regardless of what people may think, right? If you allow God to use what you've gone through to help others, watch how blessed you become. When you use what you've gone through, that's why I tell people, don't be ashamed of your story. One thing about shame places you in a place of fear. And it places you in a place to where you are afraid to come out and share your story. You don't want anyone to know that you went through that abuse, that you went through that rape, that, someone lied on you, someone cheated, or, you were homeless. We don't want people to know this stuff because it's shameful. But when you can tell your story and you allow for the world to know what you've gone through, you take the sting out of that thing. You take the pain away from it. That's why the enemy always wants to isolate you. The enemy wants to isolate you. And the enemy could be a physical enemy, a natural enemy, or a spiritual enemy. It can be the enemy in your mind, or it can be a person that wants to isolate you away from people. Because one thing about the enemy loves to operate in secrecy. Have you ever noticed that? The enemy loves secrecy. The enemy loves for you to be afraid, to be ashamed, to not tell people what's going on in your life. Now, granted, you don't want to just tell people everything about you because you open yourself up too much, right? But those things that are making you feel bad, the things that you are ashamed of, right? The thing that hurts you, the thing that is hindering you and stopping you from moving forward, you have to shed light on that stuff. You have to tell somebody. You may not not tell the world, but tell someone. That's why therapy is so important. That's why therapy and counsel is so important, because you get a chance to tell someone, how you feel. You get a chance to express yourself, and, you get a chance to just, lay it all out on the line. You get a chance to release that stuff, right? And that's what the enemy doesn't want. The enemy doesn't want you to share your story, tell your truth. The enemy wants you to be in shame and wants you to be hurt and embarrassed about things. One thing I've told the enemy, and I told the enemy this at a young age, and I'm glad I went through all of that. I'm not going to allow him to quiet me. I'm not going to allow him to shush me. I've been quiet for too long. I've been afraid for too long. I've been going along to play along for too long. Because what I will do, whatever the enemy comes to me with, I will flip that thing to make it benefit me. Whatever lie he tells, whatever truth he tells, I will flip the truth and make it benefit me. It's going to benefit me in some way. Because I'm not going to be ashamed of anything. You have to let the enemy know you're not going to be ashamed. You're not going to quiet me. The enemy wants you to be quiet. People want to try to silence you. They want you to be ashamed of what you've gone through. They want you to be ashamed of No, I'm not going to be ashamed. I'm going to tell my story how I see fit. How God places it on my heart to tell my story. You're not going to quiet me. You're not going to bully me. You're not going to make me feel bad, because I am the author. I have the pen to my story. I'm the author in this story here. I have the pen. I can write that story how I experienced it. There's one thing a person can't take away from you. And that's just like people try to discredit God. They try to make God all these things. They say he's this. They say he's that. They say you got to do it this way. They say you have to do it this way, that way. But one thing a person cannot take away from you when it comes to God, they can't take away your experience. They can't take away that experience you had with him. They can't take it away.